Hello, everybody. Welcome
Hello.
back to the Always the Worst. Sorry, I was checking if I was in sync because I freak out every time I flick into this scene, and then I'm like 4 seconds out, but I'm in sync, so all good.
Excellent.
Yes.
I mean, as long as that's all we can really ask for, isn't it? Which
Yeah.
one do you want to be, though? I'm taking Justin Timberlake. Too late.
Oh, I'll go. I'll be the dude that wants to go to space.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I don't know his name, but I'll take him.
GD or something. Yeah. Anyway,
I,
either way, like, yeah.
I'm the guy going to space. But today we're not talking about space. We're grounded. We're on Earth today.
Mm.
And big bad world of crime.
Crime, organized crime, is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, with infernal affairs.
Yep. Just checking. Have you got it spelt right? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
did.
That's
I did. I
it.
got it all right. So we're doing Infernal Affairs and The Departed because
Yes.
Departed is the remake of Infernal Affairs, but it's filmed
But in
two,
English.
but in English, two very different tones to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. We'll get into
Yeah.
the whole shebang because this is what we've been doing all month. If you didn't know, we are comparing and contrasting movies that have been remade from foreign film to American audience, etc. And this one was one I wasn't 100% aware of. I did not know of Infernal Affairs. Don't know about you.
I did actually. It was one of the few that I think it was last week. It popped out in my head, like out
Mm,
of nowhere, that I realised that there was a Hong Kong crime film that
yes,
Martin Scorsese made into a crime, like his version of gangsters, and I was like, wow, that's quite a
it's quite a leap.
yep. Um, Other news just before we get into this, it is David Fincher's birthday today, so happy birthday, David
Yay!
Fincher,
Happy birthday.
one of our favourite directors.
Yes, who we were talking about last week, of course.
Yes, because
And we'll probably be talking about many other episodes after. Yeah.
yes, because we are very much looking into doing a wee bit of a Fincher-esque run at some point.
Venturefest, is that what we're going to call it?
Oh, that's
Ah.
that's gross, so gross.
Yep.
So
But let's
I,
just fucking go for it.
yeah, let's get into this. Let's dive into it. So, Infernal Affairs that's
Mhm,
been
mhm.
departed is about two cops, but one cop
Yes.
is a bad cop from a gang who's in the police force as the mole. The other
Yes.
cop got kicked off the force so that he could be the mole for the police and the
Yes. And
gang,
the gang. Right.
and then all kind of hijinks come out of this.
Yeah, it's like it's such a great premise. Like let's face it, right? It's just a spy versus spy, really, isn't it? It's such
Yeah.
a great concept that I'm surprised hasn't been like really kind of done to death. But
Yes.
this one does it so well. Like
Yeah.
both
It's
of them do it. Yeah.
it's kind of odd because it is an espionage film, but based
Hmm.
around really arseholy crime stuff, which makes it brilliant because you don't get that super secretive, ooh, I
No.
I have got your number, Mr. Sparrow,
Yeah,
that
because
type of stuff.
it's not necessarily about like intelligence gathering. It's more about like them surviving the day to day of their duties and
Yeah.
then trying to somehow come to a victory on either side.
Yes,
You know?
yeah, it is really odd because see, for the most of it, you don't know who to root for half the time because the criminals especially in the Scorsese one, the criminals are brilliant because it's Jack Nicholson
Yep.
and Matt Damon is your other big
As,
bit
as the corrupt cop
cop,
in this
yeah,
one. Yeah, yeah.
and then DiCaprio's an asshole because that's his whole idea. He's a bit of a dick in this, so
Yeah.
you're like, I don't kind of like you, so it's really good.
Yeah, they both do a good job. Like, because in Infernal Affairs, like obviously, like is it? I'm gonna butcher the names probably. Like Chen is the kind of and the person who's in the inside of the gang, isn't he?
Yes, it's to make it a wee bit simpler, it's Yan. I think they know him as Yan a lot of the
They
time.
just call him Yan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So,
then Lou is the inspector who's going from the gang
oh
to the police officer.
yeah,
Inspector Lou,
yeah.
I'm
So,
pretty sure.
so the character in the Infernal Affairs one, who's the inside guy who's working with the gang, right? Oh,
Hmm.
actually, no, sorry, is working with the police
And the
inside the gang. It's so fucking hard to like get the right levels, but
yeah,
yeah, He's the oh God, they're both moles. Which one's a rat? Which one's a mole? Like, why does that work?
I would say then we call the person in the gang is the informant. The person in
Right.
the investigation for the gang, we'll call them the mole.
The
Because
mole,
I
right?
always find the mole is always in some kind of organization, like high up organization.
Yeah.
So we'll
So it's
call
a
them,
rats and moles is usually how they go
yeah,
because like
right,
but like we'll call it informant and the mole, right?
yeah,
So him playing as the informant in the Hong Kong cinema version is like he's he's like a lovable asshole, if you know what I mean.
yes,
Like you can tell that he's kind of like obviously a career criminal sort of style is like leaning into his sort of mode, but he also seems like he's got a heart of gold, you know?
yes,
Whereas DiCaprio's character is just like he's a rough, tough motherfucker
yeah.
who didn't quite make it. Yeah.
It was that thing of one was set in Hong Kong, one was
Hmm.
very much set in Boston. We felt like the Boston people that way of just like we are assholes. We are the hardest people on the planet at the moment.
I think this is where like I feel like kind of Scorsese's kind of suffers in a slight
Hmm.
sense, is that not a single fucking character in that entire movie is likable.
No,
I mean, I guess that's the point because it's very shows a very bad picture of the police force in
yeah.
general, which is I'm all good for. Everybody who works for that police force is a absolute prick, right?
Do you know who I like? Alec Baldwin. I
Alec
loved
Baldwin.
I loved his character in it. He was gold. Back again, I could listen to him talk just in
Yeah.
general. He could call me an asshole all day, and I'd be like, "Cool, man."
I think because like there's levels of bullshit that every character in that police department gives. Like because obviously you've got Mark Wahlberg's character of Bingham, who is just like just wants to insult every second.
He's Mark
But
Wahlberg. He plays himself in that. He's just like total Marky Mark. Like
yeah,
I'm an asshole.
but then like as you say, like you've got Thingy's character, well Alec Baldwin's character. I can't remember his name, but
Yes.
he's like the one kind of in charge, who's like the correspondent with the FBI
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But like he basically is above everyone's bullshit because he doesn't even give them a chance to finish their sentences.
No.
He just comes in, says an insult to them, then says whatever they're going to say back to them,
Hmm.
and then just says, "All right, bye, see you fucking later."
Yeah. Oh, it's like this is where I think there's the difference is when I was saying about tone and that
Mm.
and things is Scorsese spends a lot more time with your characters developing their
Yeah,
backstories. So
yeah, he does.
this is the big distinction. So when you watch DiCaprio go through the transition of going from getting kicked out the force to the interview right through, that's
Yeah.
about half your film of watching him infiltrate
Yep.
this gang.
And also, a major part of that is the introduction where we have like Frank Costello, who's played by Jack Nicholson.
Hmm.
His character gets developed quite a bit, and we get to
Yeah.
see how he was friends with all these kids and stuff and kind of influenced their lives because he knew their families. But in Infernal Affairs, we get this like 5 minute introduction where we have this guy who we don't even know is a gangster. It just starts shouting at a bunch of teenagers and then tells them they're all going to be cops for him.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, who are any of these people in this lineup? They're not given names.
No.
He's not given a name. We don't know what his job is or if he's a criminal at all.
Yeah. And
And it's like, go.
the other thing about that is they do the time skip, but they
Hmm.
give you no context for a while, so you don't realize that they're the same kind of
I know.
kids. I was like, it was only at one point where they did a flashback, and I went, right, that's him.
It's
and
him. That's him. That's
right,
him.
right, okay.
Yeah, like because I mean the Scorsese one like only really shows the kids for a small amount of time. Like
Yeah.
it's like a brief introduction, and then we just get like that thing immediately established that he is that kid. He's the one that got influenced by
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson's character when he was younger. But in Infernal Affairs, you spend 90% of the time going, was that? Because there was like 7 people in the
Yeah.
lineup, 7 kids, and we're supposed to know which one of those fucking kids is each one of these police officers because they're not the same actors again.
No.
That would be easy enough. But these are just random ass motherfuckers.
Because this was the other difference is in the Jack Nicholson one, they go from the academy to getting promoted, and it's about a 3 year period. So you could have Leonardo DiCaprio playing himself 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
same
yeah,
with
yeah.
Matt Damon. In Infernal Affairs, it's a 10 year jump.
Yep.
It goes from being basically a 17-year-old to like a 27-year-old, and you're like, he's worked for how many gangs? Doing what now? I was so lost. And also, that opening credit of Infernal Affairs, what?
It's
the
like Tomb
fuck?
Raider.
Yes, I was like, I thought I put on the wrong film at first. I swear to God, I put it on and went, "Is this the wrong movie?" Like, and then it just sort of cuts. Even when it cuts to the kids getting their talking to, it was in front of a Buddhist statue and stuff. And I'm like, I have definitely put on the wrong film.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way because the tone is so all over the place in Infernal Affairs. It has this weird, like, like almost like superhero music,
Yes, I
right?
love the music. The music's so fucking mental.
But
And
it's
it,
just like so over the top, and that it does all this stuff where it's kind of like trying to show you like the gods and like the,
yeah,
the history and like giving you a moral story, and then it's like, and now gangsters.
yes.
You're like,
Yep. See, on the note of the music, go see the music in Infernal Affairs just in general was out of this world. It was unneeded, but my God, I'm glad they put it in. It's the same with the way they cut the film. Like,
yeah,
any opportunity they had a chance to go,
I fucking love it though. Like, see early 2000s like Hong Kong cinema that has that
yes,
kind of like
yeah,
you know, the flashing lights. I don't know what you can call that sound effect, but it's gorgeous.
it,
The panning shots, the rooftops,
yes.
the slow motion. Oh,
Oh, it was, it's like, you know, you're watching something special when they do somebody getting shot and they fade to black and white for no reason to show you the impact of this guy getting shot. And I'm just like, yes, I love everything about how extra Hong Kong cinema is. I forgot
yes.
how much I love Hong Kong cinema because it's been ages since I've watched anything. But my God, they don't go to 11, they just take the dial off and go, let's go nuts.
See, this is one that the major differences in between these two movies is that Scorsese's one works like a Scorsese film, where it's really
Yeah,
slow paced. It kind of works on the characters so much, whereas Infernal Affairs literally just goes pow 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 pow. Right, we're in it. Right, it
yeah,
immediately just starts with like a sting operation, and you're supposed to
yeah.
pick up like who's doing what and like who's involved, and like it just keeps going, and it never
Yeah.
fucking stops. The pace is so relentless in it. It's really good.
Yeah, I kind of really liked it because it means when you watch The Departed, even though it hits the same story beats
Yeah,
and has kind of the same twists and stuff,
a
it's such a different
variance.
film
Yeah, yeah.
that you can watch two of them and appreciate both. Where you have a lot of remakes where they stay a bit too close together, where
Hmm.
you go, well, you find the one that you like and then you don't watch the other one.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like us having the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo discussion where they're very similar but very different. So you'd probably end up picking one that you go, this is my version of it that I'll watch.
Yeah.
You wouldn't watch both.
I
Like
would
we
watch
did.
both of these though.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
would watch.
thing.
Yeah, any day of the week. I would happily do like back to back to these and then not care because
Yep.
they're so mentally different. It was just like to put the perspective of it is they follow the same story beats, but they're cut completely differently of when these things happen. So the big sting operation is a huge moment for The Departed because
Yeah, yeah.
that's like the moment where things start to unravel. That happens in the first moment. That sting, that proper sting where, you know, the telephone hacking and
The Morse code and all
yeah,
this stuff. Like it's 5 minutes in. Like you're pretty much
yeah,
like, you're bang, here's what we're doing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like that's what I really liked about Infernal Affairs
yeah,
compared to Scorsese's one is that like it just keeps you going. There's always something really cool about to happen.
yeah,
Whereas like The Departed, what I really like about that is that it spends a lot of time with your characters and kind of
yes,
gets you into them and liking them and like really pushing them to the forefront. So both do two different movies really well. Like
yeah.
it's
It's because like you've got things like the psychologist in The Departed plays a massive role because
massive.
in Infernal Affair the psychologist is only dealing with Yan.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's very small. It's basically they put her in so they can have this moment where he's like, I'm going to give you something, keep a hold of it for me. So that you know, there's a reason why he gave it to this woman. Whereas in The Departed, she's having an affair with Leo whilst going out with Matt Damon because, of course.
Yeah.
And then
Drama.
she's this, yeah, because she's basically plays two characters in Infernal Affairs because she plays the girlfriend of Spectre Lou and the psychologist because there's two people in Infernal Affairs.
Oh,
He
I was,
has
I was
his own
going to
girl.
say, like, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you
sorry.
got me confused there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in Infernal Affairs, there is the psychologist, and then,
Psychologist,
the inspector has a wife, right? So they're two separate characters,
Yeah,
but they get merged into one character for The
which I,
Departed. Yeah.
which I kind of like because The Departed plays on that really nicely, and I thought that was a really interesting way to go. But I like the fact that the wee lassie's writing a book in
Yes.
Infernal Affairs about people with split personalities. I'm like, oh, it's so
So,
good.
so this is a really cool part about how they approach the character of Inspector Lau in Infernal Affairs is
Yeah.
because they give him this sort of like sense of doubt that like maybe he isn't actually a bad guy, and his wife is writing a book about people, someone with like a split personality who essentially can't figure out who he wakes up as each day, who is the original personality at this point,
Hmm.
and that kind of playing into his character, like
Hmm.
he is troubled, and he does sort of like towards the end seek redemption,
Yeah.
whereas
I
the
Matt
Departed, the
Damon.
guy's just a fucking. He's just ingrained in it. He just
Yeah.
wants to be a dick. Like it's obvious.
Yeah, I was thinking, it's like I love Matt Damon's performance of this kind of bit snively, weaselly type of guy,
Mm.
but he's really one dimensional.
Yes.
Whereas even though Inspector Lau doesn't have as much of a personality, well, at least for me, for watching a Chinese film in Chinese, it's
Mm.
hard to try and pull out
Yeah,
from
we're trying
tones
to
of
like because
voice.
I wouldn't understand like specifics of
No,
Hong Kong culture, but I can
yeah,
understand Boston stuff because I've
yeah,
seen a lot of it, and like it's mostly Irish
yeah,
heritage pushing its way through into American culture. Yeah.
and it's like nuances to voices and things that we just don't get. But I felt like Lau had so much more going on internally than
Hmm.
Matt Damon's was, and it made him more interesting to watch. It made the
Yeah.
ending a lot more impactful. For like the party's ending goes nuts, and you just don't feel anything. It's just like,
It's constantly like taking things away from you each time. It's just
yeah,
like you're pow, 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 and it keeps going. Like people just die, die, die. Whereas
yeah, it's
Infernal Affairs one kind of like you're still only caring about these two characters, and
yeah,
the best thing about it is that the the kind of resolve of it is taken away from you in a sense. I feel more in Infernal Affairs, like the main characters don't get to act the way they wanted to act because of the situations they've been put
yeah,
in, right? Whereas in The Departed, you can tell that most of them were plotting a certain action and they wanted a result.
yeah.
And so it's a very different tone to the ending, but it's a very similar ending.
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah, very similar. It's like, again, I feel like, see, I'm going to talk about the ending a wee bit here because
yeah,
we're
yeah.
on it.
It's quite
So
pivotal to the entire story, pretty much.
So in The Departed, when the ending comes up, it's a case of, and in Infernal Affairs, is everything's kept me ahead. The gangster's been killed, so Inspector Lau and Matt Damon's character
Mm.
both go, "We're done.
Yeah.
We kind of got away with it." Matt Damon's very much like, "Yes, I got away with it. I'm going to leave. I'm going to be a lawyer and all this nonsense because I just want to go somewhere."
He's like a varsity kind of bully kind of character
Yeah.
is so he kind of plays up as Boy Scout.
Yep. Whereas Inspector Lau just wants to, he feels like he genuinely just wants to bring Yan home and let him
Yes,
get on with his life because
because
he's
he's learned his
realizing,
lesson. Yeah.
like, this, I should not have done this, and that leads to one finding out about the other, and then there's an exchange where he's like, you're getting arrested. I'm going to arrest you even as a citizen. I'll fucking arrest you." And that's when we find out the other kids. There was somebody in the department kills Leo slash Yan.
Hmm.
But then this is when The Departed kind of goes a bit too far because then,
They wanted that little extra
oh,
bit, don't they?
because the whole idea is Lau kills the new guy that we've just been introduced to, who's been there the whole time, so that there's no ties to him,
Hmm.
which happens in both. But then he goes home, gets killed by Marky Mark, who's not been in the film at this point for
For
about,
like ages because he gets sent off on leave because he's an asshole,
yeah.
right? Like
And then that's how it ends. So everybody that, because you don't spend enough time with
well,
Mark Wahlberg to care about him. So when all that happens, you go,
but this is the thing that makes the two films different, right? See, in Infernal Affairs, the informant that's put into the gang, right? He actually only has one point of contact, which is
yeah,
the person in charge of putting in these undercover agents, right?
yeah,
So when they kill off that person who only knows about his
yeah,
undercover work, that means that he is now just essentially a criminal because he has no way back to the police force because no one knows who he is. But in The Departed, there are two main characters who know who the informant is, but
yeah,
one of them just disappears for convenience sake, for a while, and then pops back up at the end just to get a bit of revenge. I
Yeah,
mean, it's kind of it's a twist, right? It's a different
yeah,
version of that ending, but at the same time, what it does is it pulls the rug away from like the
yeah.
characters, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no,
Like,
totally, because Lau has to live with the consequences. And
yes,
it is him at the funeral realizing that I should have been a good guy, because you have this monologue at the end of, do you want to be a dropout like this guy who gets drummed out of the police force? And he's
mm,
like, yeah, I would, actually, because he knows what he done wrong. And then you get that wee quote at the end about, is that like,
spending your
I,
suffering and
yeah, uh, longevity is the true enemy of hell. So these people live forever in their hell and stuff, and you're like,
yeah.
oh, that is an ending, because the bad guy technically won, but he doesn't want to win.
Yes. Like he didn't want to win by the end, the third act. Like he
No,
actually wanted to just do what was right because he realized how he'd upset his
yeah,
wife, how he's like betrayed his kind of honor code and all of this stuff. Like he just felt like an absolute prick. Yeah.
yeah, because he's a good. Unlike Matt Damon, he didn't feel like a good cop. He feels like he was, because Jack Nicholson just kept giving him information
Mm.
to put people away. So he was just a dick that happened to have somebody in the criminal world that could give up info.
Yeah.
Whereas Lau felt like a good police officer. He felt like he was doing his job. I need to bring this up because the reason that both of them get caught is because nobody gets rid of paperwork. Their criminal activity paperwork. Why wouldn't you shred that shit once you're done with it?
Like to be fair, right? That letter is just evidence, okay?
Yeah,
That's him gathering information on the gang members and that makes it look more credible to the other officers. But to someone who was inside the gang and knows that the
yeah.
only person who collected that was someone looking for the actual mole is like, ah,
Oh, it's one of these moments. Just
it's
like,
like
oh no.
shit. I bet
Yeah.
they both react in the right way. They're both like, oh God, I have fucked up.
Yep. Like, what can I do here?
I will delete this man.
Yeah. So like, he doesn't exist.
Yeah, but like I find it more difficult to understand how Lau kind of ends up sticking to his guns as like an informant for the gang. Like,
Yeah.
I find it really, it doesn't seem fitting for him
No.
because he's not really. He looks nervous every time he's involved with
Yeah.
it. So, was there threats made? Did I miss that part? Or
This is a problem with that film being as fast paced as it is. So,
Mm.
in The Departed, we are given enough time to know that Jack Nicholson has an absolute hold over Matt Damon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he has like full on control over who he is, and he can fuck with him whenever he decides to. And that's when that does that well. It slows down enough to let you know how high up and influential Frank Costello is. Whereas in Infernal Affairs, I can't remember the boss's name. I think it's Son or Sonny.
Uh, I
Sam. Sam. His
like,
name's Sam.
but honestly, like you don't get an idea of what that guy is, like,
No.
because he's you see him in the movie, he seems like this kind of jovial little funny man who can't really do much. He doesn't seem threatening. He never really
No.
acts out and does anything like
He,
particularly mad. You feel like anyone in that gang could just walk up and be like, "Shank, right? I'm the
yeah.
boss now."
Yeah, he feels like that kind of low level guy trying to make something of himself.
Yeah,
So it's like, I don't know where you get all this umph with your people.
yeah. I mean, obviously, like because they are triads in that film, you assume that there's probably more levels to it. Like
Yeah,
that there's
but we
probably a
don't get introduced to enough of it.
yeah. Whereas like in The Departed, we get to find out that like Jack Nicholson's character, Frank Costello, is also like an FBI informant
Informant.
because he's basically doing everything he can to make sure he's embedded in every level of law
Yeah.
enforcement so that he can get away with all of his crimes with in exchange for information on other gangs and stuff like that.
Which I kind of, that part I wish was something, some version that was in Infernal Affairs.
Mm.
Because see, the killings, because the big thing is, Frank Costello and his counterpart in Infernal Affairs, they both get off because they need to off him. for the main guys to have their big crescendo at the end. Him being an FBI informant really turns it up to force Matt Damon to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, so you're giving me all this shit when you're selling all this information to everybody, and then he knows that he's got info on him now.
But that's one of the major differences between these films, though, is that scene where obviously the person who's in charge of internal affairs meets the crime boss, and they have to have a confrontation in Infernal Affairs. It's a redemption. The character kills him because he's like, I'm fucking done with you. I want out.
Yeah, because he actually feels really bad about killing for his superior dying.
Yes.
For the guy that was heading the undercover operations, he actually feels bad, which is kind of nice. It's like, it's that level of emotion and empathy that you don't get out of Colin Sullivan, Matt Damon's character.
Matt Damon's character. Because you can tell that Matt Damon's character is actually almost up until the last second is not really looking to kill him. He's probably still trying to figure out a way he can get him out of there. But because like Frank Costello like pulls a fucking gun on him, and is like, because like he has the slight indication that he's about to get whacked, and he's just like, oh, fuck you, because you're asking too many questions. And then they just start shooting each other, and they both get angry about it, kind of thing. Yeah. They don't want to do it, but they're both just like, fuck you, bang, bang, bang.
It's like, you're shooting me? You're shooting at me? I'm going to shoot at you, you bastard.
And that just seems to continue on for the rest of that film after that point. Everyone's just like,
yes, everybody's like, fuck it, let's just kill everybody.
Well, if you shot me, I'm shooting you. If you shot him, all right, I'm shooting you then. No, you shot me, all right, you're getting shot. Like,
right. There's something I need to bring up with the Departed.
Mm-hmm.
Of the one random Scottish guy.
Oh, fucking, what a hero.
I know what I love about him. He's just so dim, but he's just there, and he's great. He's just like, I'll phone my mum.
I'm no coming home for supper. Is that all right?
I just loved him. He's like, he was such a non-part, but he was great. I think again, this is just me nitpicking, Infernal Affairs, you don't get enough time with some of the other gang members. So see when they start kind of getting killed off and stuff, you just don't care. You're just like, oh. Whereas when you start seeing some of the things happening where people figuring stuff out, I think there was a lot more play with them of figuring out who Leo is.
There was the man, I can't remember his name. The guy with the ponytail in Infernal Affairs. I remember him, and I felt bad for him getting killed off, because he seemed like he was just kind of like genuinely just kind of like, I'm in a gang. I don't really know what that means or why I'm here. I'm going to do the things I'm told to do. I'm sorry. Like,
Do you know what I like about that is they have that really rememberable scene of talking about, can you spot a cop?
Yep.
And they're like, I just like the fact in Infernal Affairs they do go, you're a cop.
To him, and he's like, oh shit.
He's like, because he reacts properly. He goes, what? And he went, oh yeah, no. What it is if somebody's there and they're not noticing you, but they're looking at you.
Like they're pretending not to look at you, but they are looking at you.
And he's like, oh yeah, have fun, guys. I'm away from my massage. And then they don't click about anything with him. But in The Departed, it's really funny because Leo just fucking snaps because he's like, you're a cop. And he's like, what? You're a fucking cop. Fuck you. I'm not a cop. I'm away home. And I'm like, I think he is a cop, by the way.
Like should someone like investigate this maybe? But I did enjoy the way that they do that scene in The Departed though, when they're trying to point out who's cops, but they say it differently, which I don't think it works. It's basically, if someone ignores you, they're a police officer. So they're just like, here, that's a cop, not even looking at us, total cop. It's like it's a geriatric man just crossing the road, and then a woman walks by with a dog, and he's like, what kind of breed of dog's that? And she just totally pies him, and he's like, she must be the fucking chief of police.
See, I kind of liked. I love those characters because we're just like this dumb people that this is just what I do. This is my life.
But
I love them.
Like Jack Costello is fucking losing it about something that's just bad that's happened, and he sits there. The Glasgow guy just sits there, and he's like, he's like, don't you fucking laugh at me, and he's just being like, all right.
It's so good. It's like, I love the personalities in The Departed. I think the character work in The Departed is so good, and everybody's over the top and great. It's like Infernal Affairs is over the top and everything outside the characters. The characters are really muted, but then everything else is so extra that it's just a joy to watch. Where Departed is the other way. The characters are pure extra, and then everything else is kind of like normal level gangster stuff.
Yeah.
Both of
It's
them don't feel like 2 hour films. Is the best way to put it.
I would say Departed feels more like a 3 hour film to me sometimes. Like I feel like
Yeah,
it doesn't quite hit the beats quick enough for me. Whereas Infernal Affairs felt like a 1 hour movie to me because it's
yeah,
just like wow, wow,
yeah.
wow, everything's happening, swishy camera. Like
Do you know? I just wanted a fight scene at some point. See, just because I know it's stereotypical. We're watching a Hong Kong film, but I'm like, you're in the birthplace of like cinema martial arts. I wanted just one. It doesn't even need to be a good one. Just let somebody kick somebody
well,
once.
like see if they've had police training, you'd assume they've got like
Yeah.
some understanding of hand-to-hand combat. Like I wanted the roof scene to come to that. Like I just wanted a
The
kind of like
roof
a good
scenes.
fucking battle on the roof and then he gets arrested. Like that would have been sick. But
We need to bring up the roof scenes because even Lau brings up in what is it we use undercover people in Lincoln rooftops?
rooftops.
At least you know how to catch anybody undercover. Just look up.
Yeah, if you're ever like on a roof of a building, get your telescope out, look around, and if you see anyone, they're undercover cops.
Yep, that you've got it down instantly. Do you know? See, from watching this, I ended up watching a docu series on Netflix about New York gangsters.
Really?
When
Okay.
I watched The Departed, and then I was flicking through and it popped up. And do you know what? So interesting. It was about the gangsters in the 70s and when the FBI decided we're stopping the gangsters in New York, like the mafia. And
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
know, see like the Goodfellas and them about bugging all their houses? It was about that, and it was banging. Well worth a watch if you've watched The Departed, because you get to see actual police work and not the most incompetent people in the world. It's quite good. I just thought I'd bring it up because it was pretty
Yeah.
interesting because they are that stereotype. See that
Yeah.
stereotypical Italian American type thing, like Boston do with Irish American. The stereotypes are real for these guys that were around in the 70s. Like they're like, forget about it. They're like, mate, if you never watched a film, like, come on.
I know obviously like that's what they were based on, but like it's just it's so strange to think that that was actually someone's personality and not just like a stereotype invented for cinema.
Yeah,
But I think that's one of the things that I would like to kind of bring up though is like I kind of watching this Scorsese's version like I get really annoyed by his incessant need to be like as sexist and racist as possible to kind of like reflect reality. You know what I mean? Like, I get it,
yeah.
you're trying to show people as bad guys, but literally, does everyone need to be a fucking racist, sexist piece of shit in your entire filmography? Like,
hmm
as it kind of makes me almost wonder to an extent if that's just what he actually thinks is cool, and if that's the kind of characters he wants to have in these films. It's getting to that point where I'm like,
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Did he do Gangs of New York?
I think he did Once Upon a Time in New York. Did you not?
I can't. Do you know what? I don't know. I just Gangs of New York has that same vibe of the way they do racism and stuff through it. I don't think he did, but it just has
No,
that
no, no,
same
no.
thing of like she like throwing out certain words for the sake of throwing out certain words and stuff. But yeah, Scorsese has a horrible habit of that. See the amount of times he drops the N word in things just because I'm from the 70s and I'm an Italian American gangster, and it's like, cool, that's what history's for, man. I'm here to watch a film.
Yeah, and it's especially since like they get both Jack Nicholson and Mark Wahlberg to say the N word in this film, and they're using it in like an aggressive manner, derogatory
Yeah,
towards like
yeah,
black people, and I'm just like, fuck off, man! Like Jesus, you really want to kind of say those statements? Like, I don't know
yeah.
if it was meant to be like just saying like fuck cops, but I don't think that's his thing. I honestly don't think he hates cops. Like,
No,
mm.
it's. I know. Do you know what it is? It's that watching that film, it holds up really well. But there's a lot of stuff about Scorsese films that really
Oh,
date them.
he did do Gangs
See,
of New
but
York. You were correct.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's a big moment with Gangs of New York with that where he calls an Irishman the N word,
Mm-hmm.
and just a little bit of history lesson because I was watching some history about Gangs of New York today,
Mm-hmm.
and that is because the Americans did not see Irish people as white. You
I
had to
know, no,
earn
they didn't.
earn
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah.
white, and there's a lot of weird stuff like that because I seen a lot of things of like see like calling people from not from the States the N word, and
Mhm.
it was basically if you weren't white Protestant American, you were not white.
Yeah,
So
which is such a strange concept considering that like they're all immigrants of some regard, right? They're all
they're all,
English or
they're all European.
Italian or like
Yeah,
Spanish. It's yeah, like I honestly can't understand American history. Like I've tried to get myself
same.
into the mindset of it, but I just can't understand like xenophobic racists like in the slightest. Like it doesn't. It's not something I can really
Do
cling
you,
on to.
do you know what the weird thing is? Kind of off topic. We've got to talk about this. Is I think see because America is such a young country.
Hmm.
See a lot of that young parts of countries in that was so long ago for us, and we've had such a breath of almost like evolving into better people.
Mm.
They're still at the infancy of their country, and it's basically they're on fire still. They
It's the
still feel like they're
melting pot's still there. That's the
yeah
problem, isn't it? Like
yeah
no
it's
one
they're,
wants to
they're
kind of like yeah,
yeah. And secondly, I think the country's too big to be
a country.
classed as one. It's a
Yes,
continent.
and yeah. I mean,
It's
this is the thing that always confuses me because it's the same with us. We've got the UK, Great Britain, and like all our individual countries in between there. So we've all got multiple names, right?
yeah
Whereas America is the continent, and the United States of America is the
the
country,
country
right?
where it yeah. And even at that, some of the states really want to secede from the union.
Yeah, yeah,
Like California, and I know they want to do it. I know that Texas, that's the state answer.
yeah. But
Texas,
like they want to do it
yeah,
for their
they
own
do for a
bad
whole.
reasons. Their bad
But
reasons.
here's an interesting one on that. Texas, I'm pretty sure.
Go join Mexico. I'll see how they like that.
Um, do you know what's weird about Texas? There's a good chance it's still a confederate and not actually a state, even though it follows all the state laws. Like it decided not to join the union. I was listening to something talking about it. Like there's some weird loophole law with it where it's technically that's why it's run completely different than everywhere else in
Yeah,
America.
I mean
So yeah,
they have got like a state
America,
system that I just
yeah,
can't understand them. So
American
Scorsese,
system, yeah,
explain yourself. Like, are are you a Badgian or are you just reflecting Badgians? That's what I need to figure out.
So Donna's chimed in. It's a drop as effect. We are the immigrants, but oh look at those new worse immigrants.
Ah, I see, because you're already across the water, and then it's like, yeah, like,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But this is one of the things.
Back to move, but
There's lots of good movies about these kind of
yeah,
things as well. Like I would, oh my God, I'm gonna butcher the name. Sacco and Vicente, I think it's called. I can never remember how you're supposed to
okay,
pronounce it, but it's about Italians coming to America and facing a lot of prejudice for being
hmm
Italian, and it kind of like revolves around the idea of like uh terrorism versus freedom fighter kind of like ideal sort of thing.
yeah,
It's really quite an interesting film. I would recommend that for anyone who wants to learn more.
yeah. No, I might actually give that a watch. I quite like getting myself a bit more knowledgeable these days on these kind of things because I feel like I know nothing. So
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
mean, like
I feel real,
to be fair,
really,
it's not your necessary need to know all of
yeah,
American history because you don't live in America.
yeah, true,
So all we
very
get
true.
to see it from is the point of view of films and media and
Yeah,
things like that. So.
which is not the grandest thing in the world. But when it comes to Scorsese films, actually, just to bring
Mhm.
up, what would you put there as like your top Scorsese film or couple of films? If you had to pick like maybe three at a max, what
Well,
would you?
like I definitely rank Taxi Driver as a high one because like for me Taxi Driver kind of gets to the nitty-gritty of that time period, right? Like
Hmm
it shows you everything at a dirty kind of street level, but also
Yes.
it's it's the most focused Scorsese film because it focuses on a character, whereas
Yeah.
most of his other films are ensemble pieces about
hmm
loads of different people.
Okay.
So,
For me, because I think it might be down to the first one I watched, but I love it and I'll rewatch it all the time. Is Goodfellas.
mm,
I thought that again was one of his faster films. I never it slowed down towards the end, but see until that last maybe 20 minutes, that was
yeah,
quite a fast paced romp through. It was kind of like Infernal Affairs. It was like you just got thrown through his life story and then dropped in the middle of it.
like it's I mean it's weird because like Ray Liotta's fucking amazing in this film, right?
It's
Okay, like
so good.
because you can see the kind of terror in his eyes in every scene. Like he's
See when he's coked out.
like
See when he's coked out. I think he is just coked out.
Mhm.
Like genuinely, I think
You
he's
just
just
think
out of
he's
his
because
mind.
it's like the whole everything, the sweat, the
Oh
redness. He just kind of looks like he's in there. But like
yeah.
him and Joe Pesci carry that movie for me. Like they are
Oh god, yeah.
such great performances in that. Like because Joe Pesci is terrifying, right?
Yes.
And Goodfellas. Like I honestly still think of him to this day as like the biggest monster in any film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like
He is. He's see that film when you just think of the cast of that film and stuff, and like, and again you've got this is a film with Robert De Niro and stuff in it, and yet you've got something like Joe Pesci commands the film
Aye,
more
like
than
Captain Home
Rob.
Alone, like himself.
Yeah.
Like
Instead of it's the same way like Ray Liotta because he really wavers up and down with
oh, his
how
quality
big.
is bad, like
Yeah.
most of the time. But in this film,
Yeah. It just shows you like with a good director. Oh my god, he did Shutter Island.
Shutter Island is good. Predictable
That's a decent.
twist, but
Yeah.
I don't really know if Scorsese's involved in the writing of the film. It was just
True.
he was
It,
definitely the director and
yeah.
did a good
And
job
then,
with that.
and then Wolf of Wall Street, which I think it's a fun film to watch, but my issue with it is it glorifies that lifestyle so much that so many people wanted to be day traders and all
Yeah,
this stuff. And I'm like, you do realize these people are basically more likely rapists, you know that, right? Because
yeah.
that's how they see women, and they'll beat the shit out of people, and they don't give a fuck because they've got money, right? That's like the
But
elite thing that we're all hating.
this is the thing. Like, see at that point, see after like 2010, what I really enjoyed about Scorsese's films is that he starts to get a sense of humor, right? He
Yes.
really starts to understand that like you can't just keep putting out this very serious shit like all the time and still have it land. Like
Yeah.
because Wolf of Wall Street does that thing where it still shows you the
It's
horrors,
so
but it
funny.
does it through a comedy lens. And honestly, to see Scorsese direct like what is essentially like a proper comedy film
Yeah.
is fantastic. Like he does it so well. Like and yeah, I'd actually put Wolf of Wall Street up
Yeah.
there just after Taxi
Like
Driver as like one of his best films.
I can't make an opinion on Taxi Driver because I've never seen it.
Oh, okay. Right.
It's
Well,
just one of the films I never went. Well, never went out to see. I've seen Joker. I don't need to see Taxi Driver now. Look at the angle. Look at that. I feel it setting
just
in.
kinda, but no,
Yeah.
no.
Um.
But like, because it's actually Joker is mostly kind of based on another Scorsese film. Is it the how do you say it again? Is it the Comedian or King's of Comedy?
Yes.
Sorry, King's of Comedy is the name of it. Yeah. It's kind of based on that where there's a guy who's trying to um like kind of get involved in the like comedy routine and actually like take over from this guy that he's obsessed about and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's got very similar themes, and like kind of obviously like personality disorders and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
For sure.
Very similar. But I would say watch both Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and get an idea
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what they
Okay.
were influenced by.
I shall. So another question. So
Hmm.
Leo won his Oscar for The
Yes.
Revenant. Which film? Because I've got
Oh,
IMDb up. What
oh,
film do you
okay,
think he
right.
should have won his Oscar for?
Leonardo DiCaprio to win an Oscar
Because
for.
the big candidates that people throw out there for me is stuff like Catch Me If You Can, Inception. People do it for Inception. I wouldn't give him it for
Nah,
Inception. I feel like he
Inception
was
is
very.
very.
I think the film itself's interesting, but acting wise, it's
Had
very
him
meh.
no
It's just
like right.
Wolf of Wall
I
Street.
think Will Street is up there for me
Yeah,
because like he plays that character perfectly. Like I actually forget that it's like Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio. Like you're just like, no, this is this guy.
yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine anyone else being him, if you know what I mean.
It's the same with Django Unchained. He is not Leo in Django. He is a different person. I like I like
He's very good at
I
that
like
as well.
Donna's comment of all of them. That's not how this
All of
works.
them.
So
To
it's
be fair, yeah, the island or whatever it was called, the early one he did, that was really good in that.
yeah. There's a lot of them there. But yeah, I think it should have been personally.
Beach, sorry,
Yeah,
the beach. That's what it was
Wolf of
called.
Wall
I keep
Street. I
forgetting.
think he should have won for Wolf of Wall Street because that was his shining moment where he went. He was huge, but that's when he became like megastar Leo. Everybody loved him, and then it felt like a
Mm.
pity giving of him in the Revenant because he should have
See,
won it before.
The thing is, he did a lot of work in The
He
Revenant,
did.
right? He did a lot of stuff that he didn't need to do, and he like put himself through fucking hell to give that performance, and that's cool. But uh, I mean, we're talking about acting here. We're not talking about living, right?
Right.
It's kind
Okay.
of
I'm sorry. But in that one was Birdman. Michael Keaton's Birdman was 2015. This is Revenant. Oscar nominations for leading role.
that's two movies by the same director then,
At least I'm just very quickly having a nosy at it.
because
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait.
The
Wait,
Revenant is done by the exact same director as
wait a
Birdman.
minute. So the Rev.
I can never pronounce his name.
So the Rev.
Alejandro, I'm gonna
Wait
call
a
him.
minute. Because Oscar season is the oddest thing in the world. So the Revenant came out in 2015. So he
Hmm.
probably won the award in 2016.
Right, yeah.
Right, give me a second. I need to look at 2016. Love of God. It's because he.
Get the Leo DiCaprio Wikipedia page up, please.
Yeah, there we go. The Revenant Leo was 2016. So he was up against Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs. Recently watched that. I actually really enjoyed him playing Steve Jobs. He brought a nuance to it that I didn't think would happen. Eddie
Yeah,
Redmayne as the Danish girl.
yeah, that was a good film. That was
Bryan
pretty
Cranston
decent.
as Trumbo.
Trumbo.
In Trumbo, the film called Trumbo. I don't know that one. Matt.
I mean, Cranston deserves an
Oh
Oscar
yeah,
regardless, but like, I don't know what the fuck Trumbo
yeah.
is. I need to watch that, I guess.
And finally, Matt.
Is that going to be our next deep dive?
Just like, what is this film? And then Matt Damon in The Martian.
Yeah.
I liked
Do you know, like,
Matt Damon's The Martian was brilliant. I liked him in that because he had to. It was kind of like The Revenant, where he had to carry basically a film on his own, standing by himself most of the time.
yeah. See, there was a really good directors roundtable, right? From what's that thing called again? Is it Hollywood Reporter?
Yes.
I think it was. Right? They did one with Alejandro, guy who did The Martian. God damn it, why can't I remember his name right now? He does Blade Runner, everything I
Oh my
really
god.
like.
And then as you talk about cinema,
No,
the
no, the actual like director.
Dennis Villeneuve. Oh, the new
No,
one.
the original
Oh, the
one.
original. Oh, I don't know the original one. Oh my god.
Why can't I remember his name? He's like a
Blade
huge fucking name.
Blade Runner. Right. So original Blade Runner. Oh my god! How did none of us get
Ridley
that? Oh
Scott.
my
My
fucking
brain.
god!
I haven't even looked at it, but I just remembered it as soon as you said, "Oh my God, Ridley Scott." Right. Um. Right.
Wow.
So there was a roundtable with him, and I think also Quentin Tarantino. Right. But like
Yeah.
Ridley Scott is sitting there in the middle of them all. Right. And Ridley Scott started film school. Uh. At doing adverts,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
He did adverts for fucking ages and he did so much stuff. And my God, all these people sitting around talking about their art projects and all their wonderful things. And Ridley Scott's just like, you didn't actually have to take him up a mountain to film that, right? You could have done it in a backlot behind your fucking. He's like, you almost killed a person because you thought it was fucking smart. It's just like, he's ripping the utter cunt out of everyone and it's hilarious.
I kind of really like Ridley Scott. I think he's brilliant because somebody brought up a question to him. They were like, so in Blade Runner, we're always got these kind of night scenes with really heavy rain. What's the kind of symbology? What is it you're trying to do with this? He's like, I just thought it looked nice. That's it.
That's the one.
And I'm like,
Like,
I like you because that's exactly what all us think. And then we try and get told, no, you need to create meaning out of it. But it just looks cool.
yeah, but like I highly recommend anyone to watch this roundtable thing. It's from like 2016, and
Okay.
it made me laugh because it's just so great to see all these people who have a lot of respect for Ridley Scott just sitting there trying not to go, you fucking asshole, or it's just so good because it's also the guy who directed the Danish Girl is there
Oh,
as
right, cool.
well, and it's the way that he refers to him. It's something like, "Oh, you do a lot of those really fancy films, don't you?" I don't do fancy, but it's the way that he kind of makes fancy sound like he's just up his own arse,
Yes.
and he's like,
I like him.
right,
I am so on board with this guy now. Here's
right.
one thing since we're just talking about Ridley Scott because I think we've kind of went over the difference of the part, and I'm enjoying
Like honestly, like I'd go watch The Departed, go
watch
watch
Infernal
Infernal
Affairs.
Affairs because they're both fucking great.
The specific mood. See if you're in the mood for an absolute romp, watch Infernal Affairs
Mhm.
because my god, you'll be sweating by the end of it.
Yeah.
That keep
Oh, it's so tense in some scenes,
yeah
man. You're just like,
yes.
yes.
So see Ridley Scott.
Mhm.
What's your take on the Prometheus films? Prometheus and Covenant.
Right. So I when I saw Prometheus, I had this kind of like thing where I was like, this movie isn't amazing, but what it is visually
Yeah.
stunning and like like probably the most sci-fi we've had in a very long time,
Yes.
right? That's what I took away from it. The story itself was very lacking and showed a kind of like a disregard for the like the actual storytelling of the original films,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously like I mean Ridley Scott did Alien, right? Okay.
Yeah.
They can't say anything bad about it. He knows what he's talking about, but
And
it was taken away from him after that point and given to other directors
because it
who
was James Cameron that did Aliens, wasn't it? Man,
yes, and
a
then
master of
Fincher did Alien
yeah,
3.
poor guy. He did the best
I
of what he
know.
could. Do you know what's mad? Ridley Scott, no Ridley Scott, sorry, James Cameron, master of sequels at
Mhm.
that time because he took Aliens and then did Terminator 2. And you're just like,
Yep.
where did
Well,
that
he
come?
did Terminator 1 as
Yeah,
well, but
but
like
he's
Cameron like worked really hard during that
yeah,
time period to make sure they had all the movies he got. But like Scott is just like a he's just a
yeah,
workhorse, really. He just does everything and he does it so fucking
yeah.
well. So when it comes to Prometheus,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that he was just dealt a bad script, but he didn't care because that's just Ridley
Yeah,
Scott. He doesn't care. He wants to make the film that he's got in front of him, and he'll make that fucking film.
the advertiser in him of like I have to just
Mhm.
take a job because I've been given a job. Whereas, like as you're saying, with the ones that went to film school and they did all these, because like Tarantino kind of walked straight into film. He went and just did he did like we dialogue script things for people,
He started writing,
and
yeah,
then
like
he
mostly.
did Reservoir Dogs. It was just like that was it. He just kind of jumped ship, and it's the same way a lot of them come straight out of film school and got into it where Ridley's like, nah, I'll just
Yeah.
work. Um, I kind of liked Prometheus on first viewing because I'm not as attached to the Alien franchise. I think this is the problem sometimes is see the attachment of a franchise means
Hmm.
people can't objectively just enjoy it for what they're seeing in front of them. I think it was lacking in horror. Personally, I think it's horror.
Which one?
Prometheus.
An
No,
Alien. And
Prometheus. Yeah,
Prometheus,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
Prometheus is lacking like yeah, it's got a horror bit at the end and that's it.
Hmm.
Like
And then
and that's it.
I'm pretty sure the main lass is the girl from Dragon Tattoo and the original girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yes, it's Rooney not Rooney Mara, sorry, the Numi Adonis
Rip, Rapace. Yeah,
Rapaces.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a um
I,
yeah, she actually really broke out because of the Girl with the
yeah,
Dragon Tattoo films and then like was that was her big kind of
yeah,
like Hollywood debut, I think.
yeah. So I enjoyed Prometheus. My thing with it was I think she just the mythos of the engineers was just so
Yeah, yeah,
felt
yeah.
shoed in that I was just like I needed something if you're going to do them. See what they tried to
Mhm.
do with Covenant. I needed more of that backstory, and if you're going to go with them, you need to have something with them instead of just this giant.
Yeah,
It's the
like
idea of
I
a
think it's
giant as well, just a giant human that gave us life. I was just like, this feels like what I would write is as creators.
Uh, I mean, it's just God
Yeah,
complex essentially is what it's talking about. He made us in their image,
yeah,
if you get the
yeah,
idea of it, right? It's all just there, but I feel like at this point, he literally just wants to make
yeah,
films and doesn't really care about the other parts in between, and he kind of just hopes that his crew are doing their right
yeah.
job and everything will fall into
Yeah,
place.
because
Because
watching this film, it was grand to watch.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
story wise, it was just okay.
But also on the subject of him, are you familiar with the film that he did in 2017 called All the Money in the World?
No,
Like that's another really good Ridley Scott story you should look into because um, the main actor in that film was Kevin Spacey,
right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Spacey got cancelled like just before the film was about to release. So Ridley Scott goes, well, I made this film for about a quarter of the budget they actually gave me. I still have money. We're still in production. fuck it, get me another actor and I'll make this film. And
Wow.
he literally got all the scenes and filmed a ton of extra content and still delivered the film under budget. Right?
What? How do
He,
you
he
even?
completely removed the main character from his own film.
And then, oh my god, how do you even like the?
they they told him to cancel it. They said, "No, fuck it, we're done. We can't have Spacey. You can just keep the money and we're gone." And he was like, "Nope, I'm finishing your movie."
Yep.
And they were like,
Aye, alright, son.
and still under budget. Like,
What the fuck?
fuck's sake.
That is some next level thrift in there, isn't it? You know?
Oh yes, he's a thrifty bastard. Because if you watch that video, you'll get to see the part where he talks about Gladiator and how he just like filmed it in an airport or something
Yeah.
like that. Like none of it is ever anywhere near.
Do you know what it is? I can imagine him on like a big professional film set and they've not got like a soft box for a moment and so he's like, just go grab the shower curtain, man. Put that bad boy
Yeah,
up.
just was fucking. Let's go,
Like,
bang, boom, scene.
done. Get out. I want,
Delivered. I've got 4 more movies to make in the next 3 minutes. Like, get fucking train going.
so that might be an interesting backlog to have a look at some point. Maybe jump into a couple of Ridley Scott films.
It's a whole bunch
Oh,
of whatever, man.
fuck.
Like he fucking does anything.
I know, because look at this, right? G.I. Jane, Gladiator, Hannibal, Black Hawk Down within like 4 years. So he did G.I. Jane in 97, Gladiator in 2000, Hannibal 2001, Black Hawk Down 2001.
Yeah, like literally 2 massive films in like.
Then
Pow.
2 years later, he did Kingdom of Heaven, which is one of the longest films I've ever fucking sat through. Oh my goodness, that is like, how's he not dead?
Just because he keeps going, he won't stop.
But it took me like
You can't stop the Ridley Scott.
it took me like nearly 2 months to film 3 minutes.
I know, but like him and Scorsese are machines, right? Let's just fucking face it. They're never gonna stop.
Yeah.
They're gonna like someone's gonna have to like pry the camera from their dead hands.
like,
Like, nah.
I wonder if he's got anything lined up for next year. So he's got an untitled Alien prequel, and
Whoopee.
he's
Oh my.
filming he's got it in filming The Last
Blade
Duel.
What the fuck? There's a Blade Runner TV show being made
Ooh. And then,
with him attached as producer.
okay.
Oh
And
god,
then-
no!
Oh my
Please.
god, they're doing Gladiator 2. Please let them bring back Russell Crowe because he's an absolute head case.
Oh, he's a fucking mess these days. That'd be beautiful to see.
Did you see the trailer for his new film of the road rage?
Yeah, looks good.
It looks grand.
Looks dangerous, and I like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. I like something that feels uncomfortable.
Like we have all been there
Yeah, I remember
when
that.
we've been either on a bus. I've had it on a bus, and there's just someone just losing their shit. You're watching them slowly lose their shit because somebody's not got their money coming on the bus, and they're screaming at the driver.
I've been that guy.
And they're screaming at the driver, and there's that one person where the lights are turning out in their eyes. That bit of their soul's fucked off, and you're like, I don't know what you're going to do in the next 10 minutes. And then you have the nice love.
I've done that. I've been there. Like I literally fucking lost it at I think it was like the 7th junkie trying to get on the bus and failing in a row, and I just went, "What the? Just close the fucking doors and move."
Drive away.
And I was just like, "What?" I just fucking got up and started like shouting at them. I was like, "Get this fucking guy out my bus!" And stuff. And
My
he was just
bus,
like,
I love it. It's not your bus.
"Oh, I was like." I remember it was so fucking funny because like it was some guy trying to help this drunk person onto the bus. It was the one that broke me, right? The drunk person is covered in fucking blood, right? Okay, and I'm like that. What the fuck? And it's going on for like 10 minutes and nothing's happening because the guy can't function. So I'm start shouting at the guy who's pushing him onto the bus. I'm like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" He's like, "I'm just trying to be a good person and help out." I'm like, "You know where the hospital is? 5 minutes up the road. Take him there if you're a good person, you sack of shit." And just fucking walked
Yeah.
off the bus, like screaming at him.
Oh, down my end, we've had that so many times, and you're watching the you person in the scenario getting ready to just lose it, and then there's always the one person that gives them the money, and I hate them more so than the person losing it. Me, I'm in my own world 99% of the time, so I don't pay attention. I'm just like, "Oh, do," and then that wee person gives them it, and then this is when all hell breaks loose because they sit next to you, and then they
You sit next to you, don't they? Every
then they
fucking
talk
time.
to you, but then you don't know if they're dangerous or not. So you have to do this thing. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
And you're just kind of agreeing and nodding your head, getting along with it, and then they bust out the fucking something. It's either a racist remark or some other shit, and you're just like,
Hold.
no, I am not your pal. I'm not
Yeah.
associated with you. But then they get a bit fucking
And
weird,
then you don't know how
and
far to
yeah.
take it because I've had it where I got on the bus and I
Mhm.
needed to sit down. I had like a long shift and I was like, I really need a seat. And the only seats were near the back. And you had the crowd room at the back. And then you sit down and then
Mm.
they go, mate, got headphones on, music loud enough you can hear them through them. Mate, aye, where you going? You're like, that's a loaded fucking
Oh no,
question. I don't
that
know
is
how
a
to answer
fucking
it.
bad.
Um, home. Aye, right, do you want some? No, thank you. How? Do you no drink? I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna get stabbed. This is it. This is where my life ends. And then,
Because you chose not to have
yeah,
alcohol.
luckily, one of them ended up saying something to one of the other ones, and then they started infighting. I'm like, oh, thank fuck.
Oh, good. They're fighting
Yeah,
amongst
headphones
themselves.
back on, and I just done this out the window and went, right, just carry on, you're sleeping. And I just lay
Yep.
like that.
I,
I turned my music down because
I
in
got.
case they fucking tried to mug me, but I was just,
Oh, talk to you
I'm
again.
just like,
I got called a cop. That was my favorite one.
who says cop? That's a
He called me a fucking. He said, "You're a fucking cop." It's just like because I was not interested in listening to his pish, and then he just started shouting at me as I'm getting off the bus, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you. I'm from Calton." I'm like, "Mate, this is the Calton I'm getting off at. Like, why aren't you getting off? Come on, you're a
I
cop.
just
We kill cops where I'm from."
I just like the idea of a Scottish person calling you a cop. Now you should have just turned around and went, are you a cop? Are you a cop?
No, I'm an FBI agent. I'm on a sting.
Do you see me on a rooftop? That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Anyway, fucking Infernal Affairs, man. Remember that movie? Right, go watch
I
it. It's fucking
go watch The
class.
Departed.
And tell me if Russell Crowe's movie's good. I need to see
Yes.
it.
Okay,
I'm not going to the cinema though.
so next week I'm not too sure what we're doing for next Friday. We'll just have to see. We'll have a discussion. I think we're saying possibly Batman. There was a
Batman
we're,
films, a whole season of Batman
The
films. There's a lot of trash to dig
yeah.
through.
Oh, but then we get the Arnie one. I get my first Arnie film. I get my first Arnie film. It's only been 6.
We're gonna skip that one. We're not doing Batman and Robin.
Don't take it away from me. Because it's
Right.
been 6 months.
We need to pick four
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
right? We need to pick four.
Batman, Robin's definite.
Definite.
Or what will happen is I'll end up just putting the Predator in because if you decide you're not watching, I'm like, well, we're watching the fucking Predator. Fuck Batman. That's what's happening.
Right. I feel like if we had to think of a season of them, right?
4.
If I could pick four,
Yeah.
I would go. Definitely have to include Batman and Robin,
Because it's
right?
so.
Because it's a classic.
It is. It's iconic of everything that happened round that film afterwards with the director going, yeah, I know that was shit. I don't care. I just.
Per
Yeah.
Joel, R.I.P. Also, Nolan's Batman, the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one,
yeah.
I
I think
think.
Batman.
Batman
Because you know what it
Begins.
is? I think everybody knows so much about the Dark Knight that there's nothing
Mm.
to talk about. And then the Dark Knight Rises is just mediocre, which again, not as much to talk about. Batman Begins, most people don't even kind of like it, even though it's
Yeah.
the best one.
I think the best Tim Burton one is Batman
Okay,
Returns.
Batman Returns.
I mean, I would kind of like to. This is the thing. I can't think which one I'd rather watch as either Tim Burton's Batman or Nolan's Dark Knight.
Right.
Like, I don't know which one of those
Right,
two would
okay.
be.
Right, so what's what we'll do? I've got it. I've got it locked in.
Hmm?
We'll do Tim Burton's one, right?
Which one?
The Return one, the one that you talked about.
Batman
Yeah,
Returns.
right there.
Okay, right, okay.
We'll do. Then we'll jump onto Schumacher and Batman
Right.
and Robin. Nolan. We'll do Batman Begins. Then we'll end on the highest note, the '60s movie.
Oh yeah,
Let's go.
that's an actual. That's a mood. Like, I haven't done that
Yeah,
one.
that's a series. I've never seen it, but I know there's a point in it where there's sharks with lasers. I'm pretty sure there's
Yep,
sharks
and-
with lasers.
And it actually, the ending of Dark Knight Rises is actually a recreation of the
Yeah. Oh my god, so it is.
because he runs away with the bomb over the pier
Yes.
and then gets into the sunset.
And it has the shark repellent spray and everything. Oh, it's gonna be a trip. So I am down for that. And yes, Donna, this is the first Arnie film on ATW. 6 months, because technically it was 6
Unbelievable.
months yesterday. Is
He's not even like tangentially related to any of the films we've seen so far.
No, I've been a good boy. I've been on point. But
Well, maybe we can have Arnie season next month then.
oh my god, I've got so many. I know I've not. I've already done it because I just have to do the best of the best. Commando, Last Action Hero. Like hit the fucking shit notes. No, but if we were going to actually do it, I would do Commando, Predator, T2, and then my last one might be Total Recall. If I just got to go.
Total Recall. Okay, okay, interesting. So we're not going to touch upon any of these like shiters then, because that's kind of
My issue with a lot of his rubbish films is they're not funny rubbish or anything. They're not like these. They're just bad. Stuff like the film where he played a guy called Gunther, one of the new ones, like Got to Kill Gunther. It's just meh.
What about Danny DeVito and him in
It's so
Twins?
good. Oh, there's too many. Like I think I need to do like multiple series.
Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, there's just so many. Simon, do the Running Man, you cowards.
I like Running Man. It's actually one of my
Running
favorites.
Man's like, hey, Christmas tree. I don't know why
Yeah.
that got me every time. And I don't know why. Of him just running away from a guy with loads of freaking LED lights on him.
I just love that how many sci-fi films have copied every part from that
Yeah.
film. Like even like your stuff like what's it called again? The Mockingbird and all
Hunger
that
Games.
stuff.
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. That's what the
It's,
first
it's
one
the
was
same
called.
with
Yeah, Hunger
Battle.
Games.
It's basically this because everybody goes, "Oh, Hunger Games copied Battle Royale window, Battle Royale, and stuff copied Running Man because it was the same fucking
Yep.
concept." Arnie did it first.
I mean, like not necessarily. I think
There's a
that
bit,
there was no real TV show and stuff. Like
but
Battle Royale is more just about a school system going
yeah.
corrupt and like, oh, well, I mean, trying to fix the youth of today. Like was the main issue of it.
I'm trying to think because
Yeah.
again, Terminator 2 because it's an absolute classic, but Terminator's always a nice, interesting one because it's a forgotten Terminator film. It's really good.
I think it shows a different side of Arnie,
Yeah.
which is really good and actually terrifying.
Because
acting.
his presence of that gigantic man is something else. I'm trying to think of other ones from that time. Oh my god, Junior. There's a bad one that's a good laugh.
Junior is crazy. Junior and Twins are probably ones I would like to at least approach something that wasn't just these action movies, just so we can have a bit of a
Okay.
flavor
Okay.
to the situation.
Okay. As long as Predator's in there, I am golden. So I can.
Fair enough.
To be fair, the Predator episode, you don't have to show up.
I'm good. I could just
I'll
have
just
like
put
I'll just get a still image.
Just put a picture there.
It's just make it like fair.
Just a gif of you doing this. Oh, have you watched anything interesting this week to get you back out of your still image? Anything else that you've watched this week that you would like to discuss before we call it a day?
Have I? No, not really. I was trying to think of any other news, but the only thing that really pissed me off was the sign of that Resident Evil TV show.
Yeah,
Like, really?
it's gotta be rubbish.
Like, it's going to be shite. Like, the fact of the matter is, they've already said that it's going to be called New Raccoon City, as if they're just doing the same fucking thing, but like 20 years later. And they're the kids of Wesker.
And it'll be the exact
and I'm like,
same. It'll be the same film. It's just gonna be the exact same thing.
why not just make a chronicle series that follows the events of Raccoon City from different people's perspectives, getting to the point where eventually the city is destroyed and that's the end of your show. The end. Like, that's it. Just follow some characters, have it set in the Resident Evil universe. They don't need to be main characters, but just let them do their thing. Like Outbreak Files.
Yes.
Like those games. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But instead,
They did this.
they deliver a pile of shit. Like, fuck you.
Yes. I watched Jim and Andy, the Jim Carrey documentary about him playing.
Fuck's sake, yeah. Andy Kaufman?
Yes,
His
yes.
name? Yeah. The
the comedian.
stand-up
Yeah,
comedian.
That was brilliant. There was a different side of Jim Carrey, and it was actually really interesting to listen to his events. And I watched the Truman Show for the first time today.
Oh, okay. I've seen that before. That's a good film.
I didn't realize how good that film was. I was like, wow, this is.
It's odd because like there are like maybe 3 or 4 Jim Carrey movies within that sort of like period that are just quite really deep and quite like intense to watch, and then you forget about them because he's just like like in every other movie he's in.
Jim Carrey's like Robin Williams that way that you forget that he can act.
You forget that you can 12-hour photo you just out of nowhere.
Nope, no thank you.
Sorry, 12 hour? Is it 1 hour photo? I can't
one
remember.
hour, one
Fucking
I
I
think
get the
it's
name
1
wrong.
hour photo. Because it's like
1 hour
that
photo.
was a thing, like a photo booth in America. You go up, get your dinglies,
Yeah.
and then go away. So next week we start Batman. That's going to be a good laugh. I am excited.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
forward to it. Which one are we doing first?
I don't know yet, but we'll decide as we go. I want to leave the '60s one last. That needs to be that
Of
needs to
course, that,
be
that's
the
just
finale.
shit. Yeah, we'll start with the we'll do it chronologically. We'll just reach it chronologically. Actually, no, because that doesn't
We'll
make
do it
sense. We're going
backwards.
the wrong
We'll do it
way.
backwards, and we'll do
Backwards
because
chronological.
that.
Nolan
Oh,
first.
do you know what? That kind of works because it means we go good, bad, good. Could be the best film ever made. Who knows?
Who knows?
Okay,
All right.
and deep dive. Don't know what's happening because you're going to pick something that I'm going to despise, and I'm excited.
I can't really decide if it's going to be a Lars von Trier movie or a David Lynch film that's just
I
so
fucking
fucking
knew you
like
were going to bring up Lynch. I knew it. I felt it. I said it to
it needs to
Donna.
be.
I was like, I bet you he does something with David Lynch. I fucking bet you he does.
It has to be one of the two because it needs to be something that I can enjoy for the sheer fuckery of it, whereas I don't know if you'll even get past the first 10 minutes of certain ones. So
It's got to be nice. You're going to
that's
get
where I'm at.
angry, Chris. You're going to get wound up, Chris. You don't get that very often.
Man, maybe I should just go straight to Inland Empire and see how your body handles such a fuckery of a film. Like that's a mess. Like, that
I
is a
feel like
mess.
this might be the first time ever that we'll start talking and then I just walk off and don't come back.
But the thing is, you need to watch it. That's
Yeah.
the thing. I need to. I was like, it's going to be hard for you to watch it because it is such a fuck.
Well, okay,
Like,
okay, right. So through the weekend, let me know what it is, and I'll get my ways to find the film.
okay, I'll just give you my DVD collection. Yeah,
Like, here you go. Watch all of these and let your mind just melt out your face.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Okay.
so everyone, it is always a pleasure. We've been always the worst, and we'll catch you next time. Cheerio, bye.
Bye.